Fear Not, Episode 70. Hi, I'm Billy Atwell, and I believe that consistently facing your fears is the only way to realize your truest self and to make those confident choices that will help you to obtain your deepest held hopes and dreams. I have faith that this podcast series will show you that you are not alone, that it will strengthen you and give you courage to face your fears, and that it will help you to permanently cross over into a life of living beyond your fears. Join me on this journey as we listen and learn from others as they share their experiences in facing and overcoming their own fears. Hello, everybody. Today, you and I are going to be joined by Wendy Sachs. Welcome, Wendy. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Yeah, the pleasure's all mine. Are you ready to fear not today?
I am.
Wendy Sachs is a master of the career pivot. She's also the author of Fearless and Free, How Smart Women Pivot and Relaunch Their Careers. An Emmy Award-winning TV news producer, Wendy has worked at Dateline NBC, Fox, and CNN. She was also a Capitol Hill press secretary, public relations executive, CNN contributor, and editor-in-chief of Care.com. A frequent speaker, Wendy has written about work-life balance and women's issues for multiple publications and appeared on dozens of radio and TV shows, including The Today Show, Good Morning America, Fox, MSNBC, and CNN's Headline News. Wendy, can you take a few extra moments to fill in the gaps and maybe also give us a brief glimpse of your personal life?
Sure. Well, you just said a lot. So clearly it seems like I can't hold down a job because I've had so many. I've done a lot of different things, sometimes intentionally because I really wanted to switch it up, and other times, frankly, because I lost my job. And, the origin story of Fearless and Free is really coming from my experience of losing a job, being over 40, working in the media industry, and panicking and wondering, what was going to be next for me. And I was looking around at all these bright and shiny media startups all over New York City that were all filled with, bearded millennials who were 20 years younger than me, or maybe not quite 20 years, but, they were considerably younger, and finding my own place in this new world of content, because I used to be in journalism, but now it's content creation. And I was really trying to grapple with what that looks like and how I was going to continue to stay relevant.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Wendy, would you also share with us today one of the biggest fears that you've had to face?
I think my biggest fear, and again, the journey of this book of Fearless and Free comes from my fear of not being relevant anymore, which basically means not being able to get a job. Truly that's what it comes down to. Realizing that my skill set, and I'm a writer, I'm a TV producer, I'm a creative storyteller, but realizing that it's becoming harder and harder to monetize that skill set these days because content, entertainment, news production, all of that has become so cheap. So to really be able to monetize what I need to, what I do for a living in a way that with all of my years of experience, what makes sense for me.
So what did you do to face and overcome that?
Well, I wrote this book. Truly, that's what started the journey of how do we stay relevant? How can we take risks? How can we get the skills that we may need? And so I looked to Silicon Valley, which I feel is, sort of our North Star these days, our cultural crush. And I looked to see what successful lessons were coming out of Silicon Valley that women could then apply to their lives to get over that fear, right? To get over that feeling of being stuck and paralyzed. What are some of the things we can do? How can we be strategic in our career? And that's really what I spent my time investigating, and that's what I wrote about.
Would you mind maybe sharing a few examples of what you learned?
I really love the concept of engineering serendipity. And that is a concept definitely embraced by the startup world and Silicon Valley, and also creative agencies, advertising agencies, and places where they're really hoping to make really cool stuff happen. And there's a lot of strategy involved, and it's about, the creative collision of ideas, but it's also about putting yourself in positions where you can make the magic happen. And a lot of that is also doing your homework before you go to an event or before you speak to someone, know what your ask is going to be, and then also see how what you do can help other people, and get yourself into areas where you can be sort of adjacent maybe to the industry that you know really well, but figure out how you might be able to blend into some new areas, whether those are projects, whether those are new companies, or other positions. But it's creating that magic for yourself and knowing that we sort of are empowered enough to create our own serendipity. To me, that is actually a really innovative concept, and something that I don't know, really I found very empowering.
Wendy, you've clearly had quite an amazing journey. I mean, just your resume alone. um, and beyond just taking inspiration from Silicon Valley, you've must have come across some other materials that have inspired you or helped you to face fear. Would you mind sharing some of those as well with us today?
Well, sure. I mean, I interview a lot of women in my book, all different types of women across industries. And one of the chapters in my book is about failure. I've been fired a couple of times, lost my job, companies folded. They couldn't afford me anymore. So I'm really into this concept of sort of overcoming that fear of failure. And women are definitely more risk averse than men. This is not my own personal opinion. There are studies that actually show this, because women want to be perfect. We want to get it 100% correct. So through my stories and my research and interviewing different women, I really found inspiration. And one of the women who I interview in the book, her name is Reshma Saujani. She is the founder of Girls Who Code. And this is a woman who applied to Yale Law School 3 times before getting in. She ran for Congress in New York City and lost in a landslide. She ran for public advocate in New York City, also lost. And so she really, I mean, this is a woman who kept getting back up again and kept getting back up again. And now she founded Girls Who Code. And by the way, she's not a coder. Her background is as a lawyer, but she really embraced this idea that she wanted to close the gender gap in technology, and that became her mission when she was running for office in New York City, and she made that happen. She made that happen in her company, and it has this unbelievable mission of getting 1 million girls to code, in the next decade. People like that's where I really drew my inspiration from.
Are you ready for the speed run?
Oh, sure, let's do it.
What individual, whether they be fiction or real, has made the most impact on your life?
Oh, that's such a good one. I love Eleanor Roosevelt. I mean, I'm a political person at heart. I started on the Hill. Eleanor Roosevelt to me was just like an amazing character in history, and she doesn't get the attention that I think she needs to. I mean, she does, but I think we could give her a little bit more love these days as well.
If you could instantly change one thing in the world, what would you change?
Our president.
What's your biggest weakness?
I'm terrible with money. I really, you know what? And I also am not a great negotiator when it comes to money. I definitely have a squeamishness about asking for what I know I deserve.
What's your biggest strength?
My persistence. I just don't give up. I'm relentless. I mean, almost to a fault. But that whole hashtag "she persisted" really applies to I feel like my DNA, and certainly as an author of a new book, you were just out there in such a putting yourself in very vulnerable positions, but you're constantly pushing out and pushing out, trying to get publicity and speaking opportunities, even just getting people to agree to be interviewed for the book. So it takes a certain type of persistent and relentless, I think, personality to be able to drive that.
If you could only have one book to read, what book would that be?
Oh, I guess, the Hamilton biography. I mean, I really I'm a big fan of, I do love biographies.
Do you have a favorite sound?
Oh, the sound of my kids laughing.
And Wendy, if someone would like to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Oh, they can reach me at wendysachs.com is my website. You can email me, wendysachs@gmail.com. I'm pretty easy to locate.
And what parting advice would you like to leave with us today?
To be fearless, to be able to take risks, and that the best and fastest and most efficient way to grow confidence, because confidence is truly what holds so many of us back, particularly women. It's not that we lack ability, but we lack the confidence to take risks. So I would say start doing something today. Take those small steps. Take whatever may be risky for you. Just start moving in that direction, and that will grow your confidence, and that will put you in a better place to be able to take some action and to move forward.
I think Eleanor Roosevelt would agree. And thank you so much for that. And I want to thank you so much, too, Wendy, for coming on the show and just spending time with us. I know you're kind of busy with the new book and doing the publicity tour, so I really do appreciate you coming on the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining me today. And remember, you cannot achieve everything, but you do have the God-given ability to achieve anything. So stay focused, out of fear, and keep on keeping on. Until next time, be well and peaceful. For more information on today's episode and guest, or for resources that will assist you in overcoming your fears, visit livingbeyondyourfears.com. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast, where 3 times a week we move to a life beyond our fears.